These are all the books that I need to read in September. Quite a lot of them. Hello everyone and welcome to my September reading vlog. I have finished my very first book of the month, and that is this huge novel, which is Neil Gaiman's The View from the Cheap Seats. Now I need to sit down because my arm is hurting. Basically this book is a selection of Neil Gaiman's speeches and introductions and thoughts in general that he has written during the past 30 years, I believe. And of course you have to be a fan of Neil Gaiman in order to really appreciate this collection. I do consider myself a fan, but I felt like some of these texts didn't interest me as much as others did. I did read it from A to Z, which I maybe shouldn't have done. I don't know if that is the best way to read it. You can read selected text and then drop it a little bit and then pick it up again later, but I didn't do that. So all in all, I did love some of the text. I didn't really care for some of the others, so in the end I gave this selection 3 out of 5 stars. It is now later in the day and I have finished this novel, which is The Prince of Mist by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. You might recognize his name because he also wrote The Shadow of the Wind. I'm definitely going to do a book review of this book together with some other books very soon, just because these Danish books have just been released here in Denmark, so I won't talk too much about it right here. But I can't tell you that this is a ghost story. It is targeted for young adults, but it can also be read by adults, at least according to Carlos Ruiz Zafón himself. I liked it. I did find parts of it predictable. I didn't find it scary at all, but it was still a pretty good story. It's a very short story, so this is another one of those books that I rated 3 stars. It is now a few days later and I have finished Amy Schumer's autobiography, which is called The Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo. I love this autobiography. It is one of the better ones I have read, and I must admit I didn't know who Amy was to begin with. I was sent this copy unsolicited, and I asked a few friends and I watched some clips of her on YouTube, but other than that I didn't know who she was. I do now. I feel like this biography really gave me an insight into who she is as a person and what she has been through, and also what kind of humor she has. I adored it. For instance, she includes these chapters which are basically diary entries that she wrote when she was a teenager, but now she has mixed them up with some comments from today, which was so much fun to read. It wrapped up beautifully and I just really feel like I know her so well now. I love her as a person. And yeah, in the end I ended up giving this very surprising reading experience 4 out of 5 stars. I am contemplating buying some books, and I thought that it would be kind of fun to show you which books I might buy, but I'm just not sure yet, so this is just thoughts basically. So I have a list of books here, and basically I have this kind of, how can you say it, I pay a certain amount of money each month in order to get some books cheaper from this Danish bookstore, you could say, online bookstore. So I kind of want to get some books just to use this deal that I have with them. And right now the choices are these. Let me just show you. Right now I have about 7 books on my list, and I'm not going to get all of them. I'm just contemplating. So we have John Irving's The Cider House Rules, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer, Fahrenheit 451, Human Acts by Han Kang, Perfume River by Robert Olen Butler. This is actually a new release, which I find quite interesting, so I don't know if I will get that one first, maybe. This is Night Tones, I believe it's called in English, by Giorgio Moyes, which is being published in Denmark here in September. And then we have M Train by Patti Smith. I think that the book I am the most interested to buy right now is actually Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, just because I haven't read that one, but the only thing is I now see that they don't have that book right now. So that's a problem. I might have to think a little bit more about this because I want to buy some books, I just don't know which ones yet. I have now read The Girls by Emma Cline, which I really liked. I am going to do a full video review of it in another video, so I won't go too much into why I love this book so much right here, but I can tell you that I loved it so much that I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and check out my review if you want to know why. It is now September the 12th, and yesterday I finished another book which I'm going to talk about right when I get into the light, which is in here. So the book I finished is this one. It is The Accidental Tourist by Anne Tyler. You know, I really love Anne Tyler and I was interested to read one of her most popular books. And I am happy to say I really liked this one. It wasn't as good as A Spool of Blue Thread, but it was still really good. Once again, it's a very simple story, and I thought to myself while reading, what is it about this simple story that makes me like it? But the thing is that it's just so honest and it deals with life in such a beautiful way. It deals with situations that we can all imagine being in. And the writing is beautiful. So all in all, I was very much impressed once again by Anne Tyler, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Do you remember I talked about buying some new books? So 3 of them just arrived. Anne Tyler's Lot of Years Raw Blood by Catriona Ward, which is supposed to be very scary and gothic and perfect for this time of the year, as well as Night Waking by Sarah Moss. Maybe you remember that I read and reviewed another book by Sarah Moss, which I was such a huge fan of, and that is The Tidal Zone. So of course, after having read this, I wanted to read something else by her, and Night Waking turned out to be the one. So today has been a really good day. It has been so beautiful outside. I have had the perfect day at work. I just got home and I am ready to relax and read my books. But before I do so, I have finished another book that I want to talk about right here, and that is Radiance by Catherine M. Valente. Now, this book was one of a kind. I have never ever read a book like this before, which I love when that happens, when you come across a novel that is so unique but still yet so lovable, and this is the case with this one. This is a mixed match of genres, and it's a mixed match of settings, and it's all very confusing, but it's confusing in a way that it still makes sense, which I was a huge fan of. I don't like it when it gets too complex and too confusing, but with this one I was able to follow what was happening, which is basically about a young girl and her father whose lives revolve around movies, and how you can depict life through movies, and how light itself is important in movies. But it's also about so many other things that I can't really describe right here. Trust me, this is really special. It is such an entertaining read and I really liked it, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I have now read Lighthouse Keeping by Jeanette Winterson. Sorry if my voice is rather hoarse today. I just went to a party last night. So anyway, this was my first novel by Jeanette Winterson, and I had high expectations just because it was recommended to me by several friends who love it, and I just really wanted to get to know her as an author. But having read it now, I was vaguely disappointed, which is such a shame, because I do see why a lot of people are fascinated with this story. It is beautifully written, I definitely agree with that. And it deals with some interesting topics, and it's not the easiest book to read. You kind of have to stay focused because it kind of goes back and forth between destinies and lives, and it all intertwines in some way. I can't tell you how that is. Basically, the protagonist, Silver, lives in a lighthouse and she reflects on what has happened prior to her life in this lighthouse. So it's kind of messy. I didn't really like it just because I didn't feel like I got a story that I was very interested in. So while I did like the beautiful writing, I didn't love the messiness of it, so I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. Today is September the 21st and I have finished Night Waking by Sarah Maas, which I really liked. Now this is the author who also wrote The Tidal Zone, which I have over there, and I read it recently and absolutely loved it. So that is why I wanted to pick up another book by her. This one is basically about motherhood and how you can feel stressed out and frustrated with your family and your situation. But the thing is that I have read so many books about family life, but I have never read a book like this. This one truly shows the frustrations that come with motherhood. And it deals with a family who live quite isolated on an island in Scotland. The mother feels like she's alone with the 2 kids and the father is often absent. So basically I am kind of fascinated with Sarah Maas, how she takes these interesting thoughts and turn them into amazing books. As I said, really like this one, and I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely check it out. I have now finished The Horse Dancer by Jojo Moyes, and it was really bad. I'm so disappointed. I rated this book 1.5 stars, and that's because of so many reasons that I have gone into on my Goodreads account. So if you want to know why, then go read that review. But this is my first time rating a Jojo Moyes book lower than 4 stars, which is quite disappointing. And believe me, this book was really bad. So basically, it deals with horses, but it doesn't really deal with horses. And it deals with 2 women, or a girl and a woman. And there are so many plot holes in the story. It is way too long. I was bored through most of it. I did finish it just because I was already halfway through it when I realized that I didn't really like it. And then the last 40 pages I had to skim read. So yeah, there you have it. I didn't really like this one and I wouldn't recommend it. I have finished yet another book, and that is Raw Blood by Catriona Ward. This is a gothic novel about a little girl and her father who live in the house of Raw Blood, and the house is cursed, their family is cursed, and there are mysterious things going on. This book mixes a lot of horror elements and a lot of classical texts that we all love. For instance, it has some references to Edgar Allan Poe, to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, as well as even Macbeth, which I really appreciated because I do love to read horror. I loved the beginning of this book. It was a 4-star novel for me. The second half of it was very messy and I didn't like it. Basically, I just didn't like it. So all in all, I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. I did really appreciate it, but I also felt like it didn't manage to bring it to goal appropriately, if that makes sense. So that is it for my September reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching and happy reading.